The sky had no color anymore. Not black, not gray, just a crushing dark. You ran, faster than you ever had. Your feet slammed into cold, uneven earth. Mud clung to your ankles like hungry hands. Branches tore at your arms. Stones bit into your heels. And behind you, the wind howled not as air, but as a voice. A roar, a warning. The storm wasn't just coming. It was chasing you, like a predator that knew your scent. Lightning cracked across the sky, tearing it open. For a second, everything lit up like bone under firelight, the jagged tree line, the river swollen with death, and your people, your family scattered like frightened deer. You should never have stayed this long. The hunt ended yesterday. The meat was good, but the risk was greater. You knew it, but you waited. One more elk, one more rabbit, one more day. Now the sky punished your greed. Thunder didn't boom. It shook. Inside your chest. Inside your skull. The kind of sound that makes you forget your name. You weren't running toward safety. There was no cave nearby.
What is this
no shelter.
Strange new power?
You ran because running felt like something alive to do. And yet, even as your breath burned, even as the air turned to needles, even as your knees buckled and hands bloodied, you looked up. And you saw it. Not fire, not light, but something worse. A shape, a memory. The sky above you churned like it remembered a war it once won, and now it had come to win again. Then the world split. A flash, a crack, so loud you couldn't hear your own scream. The tree beside you exploded, splinters rained down like knives. Smoke poured from its center like breath of a dying god. You stumbled back. The storm had struck, not far, not distant, right there. And in that broken hollow, for just a heartbeat, you saw something. Not flame, but glow, an ember, the beginning of something. Or the end. But you had no time. The sky tore again. Rain came like fists, heavy, icy, punishing. You fell once, and twice. Your legs betrayed you. Your breath vanished. You crawled beneath a fallen pine, barely alive, barely dry. The hollow roots cradled your back like bones. And there alone, you listened. To the thunder. To your heartbeat. To the memory of fire still dancing behind your eyes. You hadn't seen fire born before. Only stolen. Only distant. Red eyes in the night when God struck the hills and men whispered in fear. You didn't think. You couldn't. But still, you decided. If that ember was still alive, still glowing, still possible, you would go back. Morning never truly came. The rain slowed, but the light never broke through. Only a dull gray seeped across the forest floor like ash that forgot how to burn. You pushed yourself up, body stiff from cold muscles, sore from the storm's beating. Mud clung to your back like a second skin. Your fingers ached. One nail was gone. You hadn't even noticed when it tore. But none of that mattered. Only one thing did. You rose slow, quiet, and turned back. The place where the storm struck was still out there. The tree split, burning wholly. The memory of its light had branded itself in your mind. Not fire, but something like its breath. And it called to you. Each step back felt like betrayal. The others, where were they now? Alive, scattered, waiting. Or worse, watching you break the rules. No one returned to the storm's wound. That was the law. The gods strike once. You do not trespass where they speak. But still, you walk. Through slick roots and silent branches, the forest seemed to lean back as if it too was watching what you would do. When you reached the place, the silence deepened. The tree was still there, what was left of it. Black, hollow, smoking, Its inside had been scooped out by fire and rage. Looked more like a beast, now jaw wide, throat charred, breath still rising. You stood at the edge. One more step, and you crossed into something else. Not land, not danger, not superstition. Something older. You stepped forward. Inside, the wood still hissed soft, wet living. A few coals clung to the edges of the trunk like teeth. Orange eyes beneath ash. No flame, no light. But not dead. Not yet. You crouched, held your hand out not to take, but to feel. Warmth. Not enough to cook. Not enough to glow, but enough to hope. And suddenly you remembered stories. Old ones. Of men who stole fire from the sky. Of women who carried flame in their hair. Of ancestors who lit the world from hollow bones. You'd always thought those were lies, symbols, dreams. But now here it was. Real. Dying. Waiting. You knew you couldn't carry it with your hands. One wrong breath and it would vanish. You needed something better, a cradle, a shell. You scanned the forest floor, bark, moss, twigs, too weak. Then you saw it, a bone, pale, hollow, maybe animal, maybe not. You didn't ask, didn't care. You packed it gently ash at the bottom, dry moss, wrapped tight, a sliver of bark curved like a tongue. Then with trembling fingers you took the coal. It bit you, not with teeth, but with memory. You placed it inside. It hissed, angry, ancient. Then silent. You held your breath. Waited.
Low,
the bone stayed warm.
guttural
You wrapped it in hide,
whispers.
tucked it close to your chest, and just like that you carried it. Fire. The last breath of the storm. The mouth of the gods. And it lived because you chose to believe it could. Not because you were strong, not because you were wise, but because you were there, and you did not run. You turned back once, just once, to look at the hollow tree, the smoke rising like a spirit saying goodbye. You whispered a word. No one else heard it, but the fire did, and it remembered. You walked into the mist, one ember, one cradle, one breath, carried toward a world that had never known what it meant to keep fire. You carried it like a newborn, wrapped in hide, tucked close to your ribs. Every step you listened, not for the wind, not for the wolves, but for the faintest hiss, the whisper of dying breath. The fire wanted to go out. You could feel it. It didn't like the cold, didn't trust the rain, didn't believe in your hands. And maybe it was right to doubt you. You weren't a keeper. You weren't a hunter. You were just the one who came back. The forest watched you pass. You felt its eyes in every shadow. Its silence was louder than the storm. You stopped beneath a fallen tree. Shelter? Barely. Your hands trembled as you unwrapped the bundle. Moss, ash, bone. You peeked inside, still warm, still red. But fainter now. Weaker, hungrier. You dug through your pouch, wet bark, useless. You pulled at your hair, ripped a strip of hide, bit your own wrist and let blood drip in tiny dots across the moss. It sizzled. The coal breathed. You had no fuel, only will, so you gave it that. You whispered to it. Not words, just sounds, just meaning. You shielded it with your body, felt the heat leach into your skin. Your hands burned, but you didn't move. If it died now, everything died with it. No one would believe. No one would try again. This wasn't survival. This was proof. Proof that fire could be carried, not stolen, not begged for. Carried. And then a flicker, not in the coal in you. Your breath slowed. You closed your eyes, felt the rhythm between heartbeats. One spark, then another. Tiny, reluctant, but real. You didn't celebrate, didn't move. You simply fed it more. Feathers from your necklace, a torn piece of fur. It caught, the glow deepened. The hiss turned to a sigh, then silence,
And then a flicker.
warm silence. You wrapped it again tighter
Not in the
this time.
cold.
You didn't dare call it fire yet. It was still a thought, a maybe. But it lived. You sat back, spine against root. Let the ache in your shoulders catch up. The blood on your hand had dried to black. You looked up. Branches swayed high above, still dripping. But the storm had moved on, and for the first time since the sky cracked open, you exhaled. Not in relief, in awe. You had held something that wasn't yours, something older, something wild, and it hadn't left you. That night you didn't sleep. You cradled the bundle like a secret, fed it bits of pine, sang to it, low, broken, a song no one taught you, but one the embers seemed to know.